Hello, folks. Welcome to the Fitness for 55 Plus podcast brought to you by StrongerLife. My name is Dustin Jones, physical therapist, one of the co-founders, and I want to talk to you about continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs, as you may see them. They are now available over the counter without the need of a prescription from a physician. And typically when we think about CGMs, you would typically think someone that may have diabetes, for example, that wants to monitor their blood sugar levels. Those are the folks that are typically wearing these, but now anyone can wear them. And I want to talk about how it can be very insightful to show how your body is responding to different things that you do, different things that you eat. Now, when we're talking about blood sugar levels, it can be really helpful to minimize or limit the amount of blood sugar spikes that you will see throughout your day. So if I go to my favorite ice cream shop, Sab's Ice Cream, and I take some ice cream and I crush a double scoop of their espresso chocolate, I'm going to get a pretty significant spike usually in my blood sugar levels. And when that happens, my pancreas does its job and releases insulin, and insulin goes to work to try and get that blood sugar out of the stream. If I've got a lot of blood sugar in my bloodstream consistently over a long period of time, that can create some problems. From the cardiovascular standpoint, puts you at risk for type 2 diabetes as well, amongst a whole host of other kind of negative health outcomes. And so looking at blood sugar levels can be a very insightful thing that can really inform some decisions that you make in terms of what you eat. And so I've been wearing, this is it's called Lingo by Abbott. There's also another one from Dexcom called Stello. And these are both over the counter. You just put it in, there's a little mechanism that kind of puts it in, it adheres, and there's a little monofilament that is reading kind of the blood sugar levels kind of at the interstitial space. And I have an app on my phone that's showing me those levels, and I can see how my blood sugar is responding to when I work out and what I eat. And so what I've learned so far over trialing this over the past few weeks is that there are some culprits of pretty high blood sugar spikes that you wouldn't necessarily assume. Like when we all think of spikes in blood sugar, we think of the real sweet, sugary things, right? Like the ice creams and the cakes and the desserts. But things like rice, for example, I had several significant spikes in my blood sugar from rice or some of those starchy vegetables or grains. And not to say that that's necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not saying rice is not good for you. I eat lots of rice. I'm going to continue to eat rice, but I think it's helpful to be aware of what it can do to your blood sugar. I've also noticed that when I pair that kind of high glycemic food, like a rice, for example, that's going to spike my blood sugar, when I eat that with something that's high protein, like chicken, for example, that can blunt that response to where it may not spike as much. I've also learned that when I go for a 10 to 15 minute walk after a meal, that dramatically reduces how much of a blood sugar spike I get. When I do eat that bowl of rice, for example, I can go for a walk afterwards. It's going to minimize that spike. And if I can kind of minimize those big spikes and maintain kind of that consistent blood sugar throughout my day, that's going to be really good for me, for my metabolic health, and lower my risk of a lot of chronic metabolic conditions that many of us are concerned about. Now, I will say with these sensors, if you are taking insulin, if you do have a diagnosis of diabetes, these are not for you. These are for folks that do not have that diagnosis or taking insulin. There are different continuous glucose monitors that you can use that are, I would say, somewhat of a higher grade. But if you're just curious about your metabolic health, you want to see what your blood sugar levels are doing, you want to see how your food is impacting those levels, these CGMs, these over-the-counter CGMs are great. Lingo and Stello are the two that I've tried, and they're roughly about $89 to $99 for two sensors that will last the period of a month. So you can take a month to learn a lot about your metabolic health. So we're going to continue to talk more about CGMs and how we can use this, but I want to go and share this information. If you have any questions about CGMs, I would love to answer them. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.